Sorry. You can see I've changed things around a little bit. I've got a different camera and a little bit of a different setup. So hopefully you guys can all hear me and I can actually see if you guys have any questions or anything like that. And I'm hoping it's a little bit less glitchy this time. So thanks for being here with me to draw. Again, we're going to take our drawings in a three-dimensional direction this time. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. I think a lot of what I said last time at the beginning got cut off. So I'm going to, sorry if I repeat myself or if any of this you've heard before, but my name's Nicole Gagner. I'm a teaching artist for the North Dakota Council on the Arts. I do a lot of different things. A teaching artist means that I am a full-time professional artist. I'm here in my studio in Bismarck right now. And I do a lot of my own art in my studio. I paint outside of the studio. I do a lot of murals and things like that. But then I also get to share my teaching of art to students like you guys. And I teach all ages. I've taught young kids. I teach elderly at like assisted living and nursing homes, and kind of have a variety of different things that I get to do with all ages. And I think it's really fun to kind of jump around like that. I never really do the same thing from day to day. So that's pretty fun. So I'm going to give everybody a second to get logged in here, get all their stuff ready. Hopefully, if you were in early, you might have seen the sign. You're going to need your crayons for sure. But if you have anything else you want to try to use, if you have colored pencils, the regular markers won't work on black paper, but if you wanted to add a little bit of white paper or something like that, everything that we are doing today will work on the black paper or the white paper. So if you kind of want to switch things around, if you have a couple extra materials, that can be really fun too. We'll use some of the patterns that we drew on Monday and kind of add to some of those things and take those ideas kind of in a different direction. But today I have a top-down camera, so hopefully you guys will be able to see my desk and see me working a little bit better. So I'm going to probably keep it mostly top-down like this. Hopefully you guys can see that a little bit better. I'll move this since we are drawing now. And I don't think you guys were able to see this before. These were some of my patterns that I was drawing as examples. So if you still have your example pattern drawing, you can keep that off to the side for a little bit of extra inspiration. I've also got my finished piece here, so you can keep that off to the side for extra inspiration here too. I think I mentioned last time that if you really enjoy pattern drawing like this and end up making a whole lot of patterned work, you can kind of keep these and reinvent them in different kind of collagey ways. So I'll talk about that a little bit later today too. I don't know if anybody had a chance to check out any of the other videos on my website, but I do have one other collaging video on my YouTube also. So that's something that you guys can maybe check out later. So I am going to just start off straight away with the black paper today. What we're going to do, you can see that this is something that started flat, and then I grabbed scissors and kind of altered it. So I'll show you how to make this exact shape. But later, if you kind of want to walk through a couple different shapes too, your finished piece, of course, doesn't have to look like this. You get, you're just going to get a blank piece that's going to then be folded and have four sides. And what you want on each of those four sides is entirely up to you. When we're done, you're going to have kind of a little, like a little village or, like a little city street, something like that. So kind of start thinking what, if you were designing a town, or, I mean, it doesn't even really have to be a town. Maybe it's like cabins or, tree houses or something, this is entirely your city, how you want to plan it. But I'll show you a couple different shapes that you can make and customize as your own. So we're going to actually make this house shape today. So you're going to start off with just one piece of paper, and we're just going to fold it in half. So, and you could be starting this with, if you have white paper and you wanted to do kind of a tester first too, that's fine too. I have a couple extra sheets of black paper here, so I'll just dive right in with the black paper. Or if you're feeling bold, go ahead. So my short ends are coming together and I'm just folding it in half like a book, increasing it pretty well. And then I'm going to unfold, and I'm going to fold towards the center. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever done origami before. This is a much, much simpler version. We won't get really crazy with it. So then I'm just going to fold the other side in. I just flipped it upside down because I'm right-handed and it's easier. And if your folds get a little bit crooked or you don't fold it exactly the same way as I do, it's not a big deal for this. We just basically want it divided into fourths. And I want them all eventually kind of facing the inside. So it's going to make, you can see it's kind of like a long rectangle tube shape. That's what we want at the end here. So once you've got it all folded, the next thing you're going to do is draw what you want the top of your shape to be. So I'm just going to do that same triangular shape. If you wanted your building to be straight across, you would just draw a line like that. If you wanted it kind of uneven house top shapes, you could do that too. I'm just going to do a really basic triangle here. And you don't have to sketch it with a bright color like I did. I just wanted you to be able to see it. So I've got just a triangle shape here. And so each one of my 4 sides is all going to have the same shape. So I'll go ahead and cut that if you want to watch first and kind of see how it comes out. All right, so I've got 4 of the same shape here, basically. And so now the next thing I'm going to do, pick the side where everything is going away from you. That's going to be your out side that everyone can see. And this is where you're going to add your decorations to. This one you can just set aside for now. You could turn this into something else later. I mean, that's kind of a fun shape in itself too. But you could also cut these off and make it just into a smaller house. Totally up to you how you want to make your extra shapes here. After we've drawn on everything, you can see that I folded a little tab on the end here. I'll fold it up so you can see it a little bit better. I just folded one little side in. So this is not going to get drawn on. That's where we're going to glue. So once you've got some glue there, you'll fold that in so it all comes together. Sorry, I'll hold this a little bit further forward. So let's go ahead and fold that first tab right now, just so that you know that you don't want to draw any of your good details right there. So this is going to fold towards the inside also. So if that makes sense, everything's kind of folding away from you. They'll all come together and you'll just glue that little tab there. But we won't glue it right now. We want to be able to lay it flat so we can draw it. But I know I don't want to put any of my details that are going to be in there. All right, so I'm just going to start drawing now. How you decorate this is entirely up to you. If you're using the black paper, you'll want to use the construction paper crayons again. So once you've drawn your shape and got it all cut out, you can go ahead and start drawing on it. I'm going to do something pretty similar to my original one. I started with kind of roof tiles in the front here. Again, if you want something different, totally up to you. And kind of like our last one, how much or how little color you use on these is also just an artist choice. You get to make these as colorful or as simple as you want. So you can see this roof tile here is just another one of those repeating patterns like we did last time. So it's kind of like a simple version of the fish scales. If I wanted to make it a more complicated version of the fish scales, I could do that too. So this is totally up to you. Hopefully everybody's getting their first shape cut out so that they can start drawing on it here. We should have enough time to finish at least 1 or 2 of these. One on its own looks nice, but for the finished photo that you send to your teacher, having a couple together just has a little bit more of an impact. And you might want to start planning as you are drawing on your little houses or buildings or whatever you're making. You might want to start planning, do you want other things to go with it? Do you want like a street or maybe cars parked in front of the house, or are you doing like a farm scene? So do you need some animals? Or even if it is a house, maybe you have a dog in front of it, or, you know, just totally up to you. I'll show you how you can do a little pop-up triangle so that you could have a little something extra sitting in front of it, especially if you have all of these like scrap pieces that you might cut off, you could turn those into something else. And each side of your house doesn't have to be the exact same. If you think of buildings you see outside when you go on a walk, or even your own house, usually there's one of these will have a front door, doesn't matter which one. But then maybe the ones next to the door will have like windows or something a little bit different. On my original here, I drew a front door and then kind of side windows with window boxes. And I'll show you how I did all of these too. I'll make one pretty similar. And then I just had little flowers growing in front of the house. So you can kind of make it up to you. Oh, I didn't finish my my brick pattern here. I got about halfway done and I guess I stopped there. So maybe I should go back and finish that brick pattern too. And your house does not have to be brick, of course. If you'd rather draw a siding, or maybe you're making a log cabin, or you just want to color it a solid color, entirely up to you. So I'll go ahead and show you how I drew my door. I don't want it to be the whole front of the house to be a door. If you think of how, you know, your house is, maybe you have a little step going up to it, maybe 2 steps. But then you'll have a door frame, a little doorknob. Maybe there's even a little window in the door or something. And then up top, maybe you have some windows above it. Maybe this window will be maybe a few windows here on my front. Like maybe I have a little view or something. Yours does not have to be the same. And if you don't have black paper, you can do this same exact project with white paper and regular crayons. You could grab colored pencils. You could even just grab, if you just have pencils and markers, this is just a paper and drawing project. So you can do this one with whatever you have. Maybe your windows have a little cross in them. Maybe they don't. Totally up to you. These can all, they don't all have to be the same. I'll do a little side window here with like little flower box like I had before. I guess I decided to keep this one all black and white. If you want to add color, you can definitely do that. But maybe I'll just see what happens with my black and white motif here. And I want this side to match this side so that when they fold up, it'll match. You don't have to do that though. If you want every single side to be a little bit different, to have a little creative scene on it or something, you could use your imagination. You know, you could also draw scenes from, if you're reading a book that has some scenes in it, this could be a good way to kind of show things that are going on in that. Maybe I'll have some bushes down here. Maybe a couple simple flowers. These don't have to be complicated, but if you really want to add your flair, that can be fun. And when I draw flowers, I keep it really simple. I just have a little stem, little football shape that comes out, and then like a cross or a circle at the top. You know, depending on what you do, those can look like different flowers. Same with bushes. I kind of do the same as, I think I showed you guys how I draw clouds on Monday. So I just kind of have kind of like a little uneven popcorny shape at the top. So a couple of those and some little circles on there for flowers, and it starts to look like bushes. Of course, this could be really, I could improve the effect more if I add color or something like that. But, you know, you can make it your own. Let's see, maybe my back will just have one big window here. No window box on this one. But some bushes still. And some flowers. All right, so that is the basic for this. If I wanted to add some more color or some more shapes, I could keep going with that. When you're all done, that's when you're going to take your glue stick and glue them together here. So just grab my glue stick, wandered off. So one sec. It's not a glue stick. Maybe I'll use some tape or something. So if your glue stick also wandered off, you can use a little tab of tape on the inside too. Same concept though, this little tab is what holds it together. So you would just line this whole thing with glue and then stick it together. Press it down a little bit if yours doesn't want to stick like mine doesn't. I think you guys know how to glue things though, so I'm not concerned about you guys with this one. And then just press it down and then that'll stand up. There we go. So you'll want to line up a couple of these. I'll show you how to make a few more, and then I'll just let you guys kind of run wild with it. It'll look more interesting as a finished product if you have a couple different heights of houses, a couple different colors. Maybe you could come back and make this one like green or something, like a different color. I don't know. So you can kind of play with it. You'll want to get all of your drawing done before you close it up and finish it, though. It's pretty hard to draw on them once they're three-dimensional. So I will just take this one here. Let's see. Do I want, you know what, for the one that didn't have the black paper, I'll go ahead and do one with the white paper. So if you didn't see me fold it the first time, you can watch now. I just folded it in half. And one thing that can be fun too, you could take drawings from white paper, glue it on the black paper, or vice versa, and kind of mix things up that way too. So then fold towards the middle here. Fold towards the middle again. And then just fold it in half. Maybe this one I will try like a curvy roof. See what happens if I do more of a circular roof, or half circle really. But this is where you get to be really creative, kind of put your own spin on it. Just kind of make it your own. If you're kind of blanking on what you should draw on your building shapes, just look back to your original patterns. You could really draw from those. And we'll want to do one little tab here. All right, and then now I can either use my crayons on this, or if you have colored pencils, markers, pencils, anything like that. I have a little marker here, so I'll do another black and white one, but with marker. Maybe I'll want to fold it the other way so my crayon doesn't show though. So if you have some folds accidentally going the wrong way, you can always just go back and fold it the other way. Not the end of the world. It's just paper. All right, so I'll do something similar where I'll start with a roof at the top. Maybe this roof has stripes on it instead. If you wanted to, like say you had your four-sided shape and you wanted to put a physical roof on the top, you can do that also. You would just use the same kind of tab structure. I'll show you that on my next one. You would put a little tab inside of it to help it stay in place. Because if you just try to glue, you know, you have the edge of your paper and then you try to glue just straight on top of it, there won't be enough space there to hold it. So if you fold in a little tab, you can even fold a little extra piece of paper. I'll show you what I mean in just a sec. And I see the comments in the chats about likes and dislikes. After this residency is done, this video gets deleted. So it doesn't really matter. You guys are just kind of wasting your time with the likes and the dislikes. Thank you for people that liked, but it kind of doesn't matter in the long run. This is more your art time. So I would say spend your time working on your drawing. Any energy that you're putting into other things, it'll show that you're not putting that energy into your drawing. But definitely keep using the chat if you guys have any questions about anything. If there's anything you need me to know, anything you want to share, that's totally fine. So I'm just going to keep drawing on my little house here. Hopefully you guys are doing the same. If you have any questions about drawing or anything, I'll keep stopping every once in a while to take a little look. But mostly this is going to be kind of using all of the patterns and everything that we practiced last time, and then kind of taking it to the next level, inventing your own thing in 3 dimensions. Oh, I didn't mention here, I did little kind of lines on the windows, so it kind of looked like a little reflective piece of glass. You don't have to do that. It's just kind of a fun thing you can do in drawing sometimes. Let's see, should I make this one match? Do I want to do window boxes again or something else? And just like our drawing on Monday, this could be as complicated or as simple as you want to make it. So I say, you know, kind of let your imagination run wild. And don't forget, these are going to go in a slideshow at the end of the week. So, or maybe next week. But I'm excited to see what you guys have done with this. All right, so that could be good to go there. Maybe I'll add like a bigger brick pattern here. So I showed you guys last week, but when I do bricks, I just kind of have horizontal lines and then every once in a while a vertical line to kind of break it up. This big of bricks, it almost looks like it's like cinder block or something, but that's all right. You can use something similar for if you want kind of like a wood board effect. If you want things to look a little bit more like a wood grain, it usually uses kind of wavy lines instead. So if that's a pattern you're interested in, you can experiment with that. You can always try something off to the side too if you don't want to put it on your finished house sculpture right away because you're not sure how it's going to look. You can always try it just on a little bit of scratch paper off to the side or even on the inside of your house. No one will see that. All right, and this time I remembered to do bricks on all 4 walls. So that one can be done. Can't find the end of my tape. So if you have your glue stick, just run a little bit of glue along the edge there. Or if you have tape like me, just tape it to the inside. All right, so now that one's 3D also. So I've got a couple little 3D houses here. I think these will really come together with some color though. I tried the black and white. It was kind of fun, but my next one I'm going to do some color on. So I mentioned that you could make a roof that would go over the top. So what you want to do for that is to start with your 4 sides, but flat here. So I'll just cut that fun little shape off. I wanted to come back and use this for something else later. I could. Maybe I could wrap it around one of my other houses or something. Try, you know, this is kind of where that collage-y idea comes in, where what could you use scraps for, use extra pieces? What would it look like if you put this on here in different ways? I don't know, just kind of experiment with it. So much of art is just trying things out and seeing what happens. Oh, that wasn't very even. Let me cut it one more time. I guess that's why I was drawing them before, so I had something to follow. But there we go. That's much more straight. So now I have my 4 sides like this. I would want to completely draw everything on here before I start, but I want to show you guys what I was talking about with a roof shape. So with a roof shape, it has to be at least 2, well, let me take this closer. It has to be at least 2 sides, so it could be like a triangle over the top of it. You could get a little bit more complicated with how many folds you add to it, but I'll just show you the simple one for now. All right, so basic box, that's my house. Imagine I had drawn, you know, nice little door, windows, things like that. And then to go on the top here, I want a triangular shape. So I'm going to cut one of my scraps that is already folded. I'm just going to kind of use that fold along with it. So you can kind of see it's just folded in half like a book, but it's bigger than my box shape. So it will fit here. Let me make some room here. So it will fit on my house. But remember, I said if I put a little bead of glue right there and then just try to sit it on top of there, it's probably going to slide off. So what's going to work better is something called a hinge. So if you've got paper scraps like this, these can become your hinges. So all you do is fold it in half, and then you glue one side to your house. And I would say let your glue dry. So maybe hold it on here. Thankfully, glue sticks dry pretty quick. Hold it on here, let that dry, and then glue it onto this side. Hold it, let it dry. And then you can do the same thing on the other side. So one hinge on each side. My tape is actually going to work like a hinge, but that's how you can make a hinge if you don't have tape. If you do have tape, you can just tape it to one side, then tape it to the other, and it'll stay. Oh, I saw somebody asked, can I put plants from Plants vs. Zombies? I think that's fine. Taking inspiration from the things you see is something that artists do all of the time. So artists will pull from books that they're reading, from movies they've seen, from other artists that they might have seen in galleries or things like that. So if you're feeling inspired by a video game, as long as it's school appropriate, if it's something violent that you wouldn't show at school and you know that that wouldn't be okay at school, I wouldn't put that in your art here. I don't think Plants vs. Zombies is violent though. I'm only slightly aware of it, but as long, you know, use good judgment. Ask your parents if you're not sure. But taking inspiration from video games in my mind is absolutely fine. All right, so that's my little roof there. So I will do another one like this and decorate it. But if you guys have any other questions about art or your drawing materials or anything like that, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat. Otherwise, I will just keep drawing here. And if you wanted to do a little bit of a different house, say you wanted like a 3-sided house or, you know, something a little different, that's totally fine too. You could also use this fold. Here, I'll use a smaller one. So we've got this book fold here that kind of makes a triangle that will stand on its own. So that's something that you could use also to draw something like, say I wanted to draw a car that was going to sit in front of my house. I would look at my house and say, okay, that's probably a little bit too tall to be to scale. So I'll draw it a little bit shorter, or I'll cut it a little bit shorter. But this is going to stand up on its own in front of my house. So now I can draw whatever I want on both of these sides. If you want to get more complicated and have a 4-sided car or add wheels to this or something, you can absolutely do that. You can make all of these as simple or as complicated as you want. So I'll show you what I mean here about a 2-sided car. So I'm drawing kind of a side view. It looks like I made a little bit more of a van than a car, but that's okay. Maybe it's like a delivery truck. So since it's a view from the side, I wouldn't see like the front windshield or anything like that, but I see the wheels. I could add colors or add anything like that that I want. And then the front here would be the front here. So I'm kind of drawing the mirror image. I think we talked a little bit about symmetry last time. So this is symmetrical. It would look basically the same on this side. Except I think I wrote delivery different, but that's okay. It's inspired by symmetry. It doesn't have to be perfect. Give it a little bumper there. So that's just a super simple version of what you could do. But of course, you could add a lot more to this. I'm sure you guys can think of much more creative things than this. So this would just sit up in front of one of my houses. All right, so I will just keep making stuff like this unless anyone has any questions. Okay, so this one I'm going to do a 4-sided house again. So. Let's see, what shape do I want my top to be this time? Oh, I'm going to do it flat so that I can do a roof on it. Well, that's easy. So I will just cut it straight across. If you wanted to get really inspired and cut out windows so that you could see inside, you could definitely do that too. Like I said, this is really just as much as you want to add to it. You can really get creative. I don't know why I started with the plants, but that's where I started. Maybe the zombie versus plants. These are just regular plants, though, no zombies here. For now, anyways. So hopefully you guys are getting inspired and thinking of different things to draw. Really, I mean, when you're kind of creating your own city, the sky is the limit here. So hopefully got some inspiration. You could also think about doing a backdrop. Like when you have your houses set up, do you want something behind them that kind of shows where they are? Do you want something underneath them? Like I mentioned, like roads, or I don't know, up to you how much you want to really add there. some little uneven windows here. Oh, good. I left one open so I can have a door here. Otherwise, how are they going to get in? Do I want bricks or stripes? I'll do something different. I think I talked a little bit last time about a herringbone pattern. So a herringbone pattern starts with vertical stripes, and then it alternates diagonal stripes. So it almost looks like a zigzag pattern at the end. So once you've got your vertical stripes, and you don't have to use a herringbone pattern, but if this is something that you think is interesting, you can start with diagonals. You start with the vertical stripes, and then within those vertical stripes, you have diagonal stripes going in one direction, and then in between those, they'll go in the other direction. And last time I did this with like alternating colors and things too, but I'll just keep it with my purple house here. Maybe I'll add some colorful doors or something, colorful windows. The fun, oops, messed that up a little bit. Well, that's okay. It's going this way now. The really fun thing about this is all of these patterns get to be your own. So what pattern do I want to do on the roof that I'm going to put on here? That's entirely up to me. And it doesn't have to be something like, okay, well, roofs usually have shingles, so I'll make shingle shapes. If you like drawing shingles and that is fun to you to make it more realistic, that's fine. But if you want your roof covered in a completely different pattern, you want your roof made of wood, or, oh, you can make one of those Norwegian, oops, I forgot to do a little tab on here. That's okay, I'll just bend this over. Could do one of those, I think they're Norwegian or Scandinavian in some way, the roofs that have the plants growing on top of them. That could be cool. I think they're called green roofs. Well, I'm sure there's some other name for it, but all right, so if I had the glue stick, I would have just glued that tab in there, pressed it, and then opened everything so that it's back to how I want it. And then now I will make, I'll make the roof for this one out of black because I have it cut. Just remember you want to use something with a book fold, but then you'll want to cut it to size, because if I put this roof on here right now, you can see that's really, really long. I guess I cut that into like an overhang porch or something like that, but I'll cut it down a little bit so it's not too gigantic. And then this little extra scrap here that I have, this could become, maybe I'll make that a tree or something, you know, something that can sit up on its own off to the side. So before I glue or tape my roof onto here, I want to draw on the roof and decide what I want on there. I'll do fish scales. A little traditional, but just fun. Oh, I should have done V's. Dragon scales would have gone with my herringbone. Oh well. Too late now. But hopefully you guys are using some of the patterns that you tried out on Monday. But if you're just turning this into something all your own, that's cool too. And I could go back and color in some of these fish scales. You know what? I'll do that. I'll color in a couple random ones. So it's like a multicolored fish scale, almost like they tiled it with a bunch of different colors of tiles or something. Because like I said, it's my roof. I get to make it how I want it. And my roof would have a lot of colors. It doesn't in real life. My roof is very boring, but if I picked it. So hopefully this is all making sense. I haven't seen any questions about how to get the houses together or about drawing on them or anything. So hopefully this is all making sense to you guys. It's kind of one of those things too, when you first see something or first try something, it kind of doesn't make as much sense until maybe you try it yourself or you've done it a few times and then it just kind of comes together. So hopefully everyone's getting it. If yours is different than mine, that's all right. In fact, that makes it a little bit more interesting. If we all made the exact same thing, I think that'd be kind of boring. It'd make for a very boring slideshow at the end. So hopefully everyone's got their own creative spin on it. Did I forget a color on this side? No, I guess that's it. All right, so I'll go ahead and attach my roof with the hinge here. Hopefully that hinge explanation made sense for everybody. When you're using tape, the tape kind of acts like the hinge. So again, if I wasn't using tape, I would glue this in here and fold it so that the other side could get glued to that. But in this case, the tape is going to be the hinge. So I'll just and how high up or down low you make your roof kind of depends on you. The further down you have it, the more flat your roof will be. The higher up you have it, the more pointy it will be. So up to you. How you want your little house to look. And your houses don't have to have roofs by any means. I think these are adorable with the little pointy open tops. You could give it a flat top too. In fact, I would say try a couple of different ones and see how they turn out. Maybe if you had a flat boxed roof on top of one, that could be like a top patio or something. Put some patio furniture up there. All right, pretty happy with how that turned out. And I think I said I was going to turn this guy into a tree because when these are sitting up, I want this to be able to sit up next to it. So I will just draw something on either side here. And just like everything else, if you decide to do a tree, it does not have to be the exact same as my tree. Of course, oh my goodness, there's hundreds of ways to draw a tree. But I usually start with just a little line down the middle for the tree trunk, and then almost like a V shape coming out if I'm doing a pine tree. And then when I have color and I'm doing it in color, I like to layer in a couple different shades of green and brown. That'll just add little extra to it, maybe even a little bit of gray in there, kind of like some shadows in there. The more you color back and forth with your crayons, the more the colors will start to blend together. So if you really like that blending effect, just keep coloring back and forth over the top of them. The wax buildup means that eventually you won't be able to blend with these ones anymore. I think I talked on Monday a little bit about how oil pastels are a little bit better for blending, but you definitely can blend a little bit with these if you start out light and come over it with darker and darker colors, it'll start to blend a little bit more. And that's kind of the same thing if you're using colored pencils. You want to start off kind of light and then layer in more and more colors if you want to blend them. And if you're just using a regular graphite pencil, that's a whole other topic. Blending with regular drawing pencils is really fun, but we won't get into that today. That's just a little extra. All right, so I got a little tree to stand up next to one of my houses. Let's see, do I want to make one more white house here? We've got time. We'll try. That'd be too little. Yeah, I think that'd be really little. I'll keep going this way. Or maybe, no, that'd be too big. All right, so I'll just start the same way, folding it in quarters so that they're all pointing in. Hopefully you guys have got this down by pat now, but I'll keep repeating that these are all folding inward. And then let's see, what shape do I want to try at the top? I'll just do kind of a curvy shape. Maybe this is like a little, oh, what's it called? Like a Spanish villa where they have those like curvy tiles at the top. Yeah, let's see how that turned out after I fix this. And if it's a little uneven, that's all right. I think that'll be fun. All right, so I will remember to fold in a little tab here so that I don't draw on my tab. And then this one, I think I'll color the whole thing since I got that kind of fresco Spanish inspiration. Let's see, what kind of windows would it have? Probably just little ones down towards the bottom. And then I think it would have, like I said, it would have some of those curvy tiles here. So let's see if I can make something that kind of mimics that. Maybe not perfect, but my version of it. I'll just show. And I saw someone say they're doing this all in pencil. That's totally fine. I'm sure you'll come up with something great. I just wasn't going to get into pencil shading because that's a whole subject in itself. We could teach 2 or 3 classes just on drawing and shading with pencils, but I'm sure whatever you're doing with it is great. I mean, any tool that you're using, when you press lighter or darker, you'll get different effects. You can kind of do interesting patterns with anything. There's actually something in drawing called cross-hatching that I can show you, where if you draw little lines, that can be like a way to show shadows, even if you're not shading. And if you draw extra lines, it's going to look darker. So the further apart the lines are, it looks lighter. The closer together they are, it looks darker. So cross-hatching is something that works with graphite, with colored pencils, with anything like that, even if you're not doing shading techniques. So that could be a fun one to use. If you use dots instead of cross-hatching, that's called stippling. But it kind of works the same way, where if the dots are really close together, then it'll kind of trick your eye into thinking that it's darker. If the dots are really far apart, it'll look a little bit lighter. So we'll do cross-hatching at the bottom of my house and some stippling at the top. now that we're talking about those. So I've got my hatching. When you only go in one direction, that's hatching. When you go across it in two directions, that's cross hatching. But you don't have to use only one or the other. You can have some hatching, some cross hatching. That's totally fine. And if I start like lots of little dots up here really close together, that's stippling. Anytime you're doing stippling though, you want to keep in mind not just to stab. You can see that's a lot less effective than when I draw purposeful little dots here. It's just more controlled. It looks more intentional. So, but stippling can be a fun way to show a little bit of shadow. And your stippling dots don't all have to be the same size. You might have some smaller ones, some bigger ones, and kind of play around with that, see what kind of effect you like. And you can use these in with other coloring too. So I'm just going to shade in around that after I'm done. We've still got about 8 minutes to draw together here. If you're not completely done, by the end, you can, of course, finish up on your own, but kind of think if there's any questions you have for me in the next 8 minutes, anything about the art assignment that you want to share or ask questions about. And don't forget to take pictures of these and get them to your teachers, both so that they can appreciate your beautiful artwork, but also so that they can put it in the slideshow. So. And I'm starting just really light here because I don't know, maybe I'll want to blend in some other colors or something. I didn't want to start too dark with this. I don't think I want it just to be straight up pink. Maybe I'll see what happens if I blend in a little bit of orange in this pink. Kind of effect can I get? I know I want a blue door, so I'll go ahead and do my blue door right away. So I'll show you what I mean with making darker lines or making darker marks and then lighter. So you can, you know, have really dark marks there and then really light marks over the top of it and kind of get different effects that way. What color do I want? Oh, and I know I mentioned earlier that this video goes away after a while. I will leave it up for a little while in case you wanted to go back and watch anything. If you're trying to make more houses and you can't remember how to fold them or cut them or something, it'll still be up for a little while, just not forever. So hopefully you enjoy it. Try a couple different ways of using this. I mean, just like everything in art, it's just about learning different techniques, learning how to use different materials, and then what you do with those materials is really personal to how you want to make your art. You know, we all got the same materials pretty much, and all the same instruction, but what comes out in the end is going to be different for each of us, which is, I think, is really awesome. It's what keeps things interesting, but it's not all the same. You can see I went in one direction with my colors. Now I'm going in the other direction. I could have pulled in a third color here, but I just kind of wanted to play up the glowing orangey warm color here. So I'll just keep layering that in. But like I said, the more you color back and forth across things, the more it'll kind of blend together. And that's kind of the same with most things. Like if you're using paint, the more you brush back and forth across things, the more they'll blend. So if you wanted something just to really stand out, you just do one mark and leave it. But if you want them to kind of blend, you just keep going back and forth across them. And I don't think you guys have a whole lot of school left, so hopefully you guys are thinking of some fun stuff you can do during the summer. If you've got any art projects in mind, I would love to hear about them. I always love hearing what people come up with. I like to draw outside a lot. That's kind of my personal favorite way to make art, especially in the summer. But yeah. Didn't quite line that one up. There we go. All right, that one turned out cool. Well, there's my little village. Hopefully you guys are starting to have something similar come together here. Like I said, you could definitely add more. You could make things two-story even if you didn't cut them down to size and left them a little bit taller. Yeah, it's really up to you. Let your imagination run wild with this. You can really kind of make it your own. And it does work with all sorts of different supplies. I don't know if anybody tried if they have colored pencils. Some colored pencils show up pretty well on the black paper. Or if you have white paper, markers, pens, anything like that, you can really get creative with what you have. Especially, like I said, if you've got extra scraps of other paper, like if I wanted to take, if I had something drawn on here and I wanted to put that in my windows or something, you could keep adding on and kind of make it your own. This can be a great use for if you've got leftover scraps of, drawings that were like, they were okay, you don't want to throw them, but maybe you'd rather turn them into something else. This can be really fun for that. So we've just got 2 minutes here, so hopefully you guys are got all of your questions out. If you had any questions, thank you guys so much for drawing with me today. Hopefully it was fun. Nobody complained about the stream glitching, so hopefully that means you guys were able to see a little bit better. Sorry that got off to such a rough start last time, and then that combined with that my comments weren't working at all last time. It just said error on my end, so I thought, oh, well, if we're having an error, then we just can't comment. That's okay. I'll just keep drawing. I didn't know that you guys could actually comment, so glad we got this all fixed. Cannot wait to see what you guys came up with. I know that you guys will do something even more creative than I could have ever imagined. But yeah, keep making art, keep using the supplies you have or any other supplies you have. I've got a video on my YouTube that's all about unconventional art materials. So if that appeals to you, be sure to check that out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for drawing with me. I'm going to end the stream now, but be sure to send those pictures to your teachers. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you came up with. Thanks so much.